Louisiana is a lot of things to a lot of people, but to me, it's a sportsman's paradise with seemingly endless possibilities. Unfortunately, coastal Louisiana and all it has to offer is in trouble. Rising sea levels, changing weather patterns, and eroding marsh are threatening wildlife habitats and coastal communities. These impacts are visible everywhere if you hunt and fish. I want to learn more about what's at stake, so I'm visiting Louisiana during one of the most active hurricane seasons on record. And, just like a storm surge, I'm moving from the ocean inland. I'm in one of the best places on earth, a flats boat outside of Venice, Louisiana, with my good friend, Captain Gjuro Bruer. Gjuro is a tarpon maniac during his guiding season. He's an ocean perch fisherman in his personal time. Today, we're fishing for Atlantic tripletail. This ocean perch only started showing up in Gulf Coast fishing regulations a few years ago. Their popularity as sport fish and table fare are on the rise, and we know hardly anything about them.
Venice has some of the largest tripletail in the States, from what I've seen. Fish them in Florida quite a bit, and a 20-pound tripletail is a pretty big one, whereas a 20-pound tripletail here is kind of the average size.
Oh, really?
And then you get opportunities at them close to 40 pounds.
And you've been doing this for how long? Like tripletail?
I've been fishing them ever since I was a kid, 13, 14 years old. So as soon as I got a boat and I was able to get out on the water. If you really want to catch them, a live shrimp is the way to go. They rarely will turn that down.
All right, let's go with the way to go.
Tripletail like to hang out around structures where they can ambush passing prey. If there is no structure around, the tripletail will create their own by lying flat on the surface, allowing bait to collect in the shadow underneath them.
There he is. There he is, tripletail.
Sweet. Good one. Woo! Holy cow.
There he is.
Oh my God! That thing is huge!
All right.
Holy cats, man.
First one of the morning, that's not bad.
Oh, well done. I mean, I didn't personally think there was any way you were going to catch one before I did.
Gjuro has joined dozens of other anglers in a little bit of citizen science. The University of Southern Mississippi has started a classic tag and recapture program. Very little is known about tripletail breeding habits or current populations. Angler volunteers like Gjuro will hopefully help answer those questions.
I think it's very important to know whether or not these fish are like salmon and return to the same place to spawn per year, or just live in a certain area. You know, it'd be very interesting to know if I tag a fish here in Louisiana, if it shows up in, let's say, Apalachicola, Florida. If that's the case, you know that, the fish we catch here and the fish you catch in Florida are moving back and forth, and that also is really important. If one state allows you to catch so many versus another letting you catch only one or two.
By participating in citizen science, Gjuro is ensuring that people like myself, who enjoy coming down to this area, can fish tripletail for years to come.
There he is, that's him, that's him. Pull him off, pull him off, pull him off. Good job. Good job. Try and keep him away from those pilings.
Got him.
All right.
Oh,
Cool.
so funny, man.
See, that's a good one.
Oh, happy to see you, Drew. Dang, dude.
Yeah, heavy, huh?
Yeah.
The tripletail is a hard-fighting, fun fish to catch. It would be a shame if it were to disappear only knowing that about them. We also know that at least part of their ecosystem, where they breed, is changing rapidly, which makes it even more important to understand their behavior and harvest responsibly. With a couple of tripletail already in the cooler, we take this opportunity to tag another fish. For me, this fish tagging operation is the perfect excuse for catch and release fishing. We're not just poking holes in fish's mouths, this is science.
These are not easy fish to clean, I have to tell you. They're pretty tough.
Yeah, pretty armored.
Yeah, pretty armored.
I'm in the conservation world, right? And people get burned out on conservation a lot. When we're talking about conservation successes, they're all due to the fact that we had a major conservation failure, right? But like this tripletail here is a unique opportunity doing the things that you're doing to learn more about a fish and hopefully get to a point where you're proactive on a species that we never have to tell this like horrible tale of conservation failure in order to tell about a conservation success.
Hopefully that's the case.
It can just be a nice, boring story of good fishing.
That's right. Hopefully we have a nice, boring story about good fishing.
Yeah, exactly. So, look at that.
Perfect.
Venice is known as the fishing capital of the world, but with strong winds in the forecast, we are going to set out for a completely different species tomorrow, one that is contributing to the destruction of this wetland ecosystem. One of the amazing things about this part of the country is that there is a wide variety of wildlife. But abundance does not always mean a healthy ecosystem. For instance, an invasive and abundant species like the nutria is actually a factor in marsh erosion.
Got him.
Just think of an oversized muskrat that makes oversized muskrat tunnels.
Back in the 1930s, muskrat hides were super high dollar. People were getting a bunch of money for muskrat hides. So what's better than a muskrat than a really big muskrat? This is a nutria, and they were introduced here in Louisiana so people could make money off of these hides, and it is a nice hide. And when that fur market went away, it became not worth people's time to go out and harvest this animal. And this animal reproduces at a staggering rate. They also use these big teeth to rearrange the landscape just like a muskrat does.
And when storm surges roll in, erosion happens a lot faster, destroying the marsh. It's estimated that nutria account for 14,000 acres of marsh land loss every year, which may seem insignificant until you consider that 1 acre of marsh can hold about 1 million gallons of water. If the population of these animals isn't controlled, this natural surge suppressor will continue to erode and the effects of storms will be felt further and further inland.
I'm interested to see what this little guy has to offer meat-wise.
Now, I can honestly say, growing up in the South, this is the first time I've ever done this.
I like it, man. First time going after big tripletail. Your first time going after a really big muskrat.
That's right.
Even when you're dealing with strange exotic animals, you can find some real similarities to familiar things once you start the butchering process. If you got the guts to at least try, it's almost always easier than you think it's gonna be.
We slowly braise the nutria to tenderize the meat, add some green olives, and serve it over rice. While we're at it, I broil the tripletail carcass with butter and onions, then top it off with Louisiana hot sauce.
If you had told me this was nutria, I wouldn't have believed you.
What if I told you instead it was just a big rat?
I still wouldn't have believed you.
Okay.
Pretty dang good. What I love about this is, you know, when you're done cleaning this fish, there's nothing left. I mean, after we take the cheeks, we take the throat, we take the carcass and the fillets, there's nothing left at the head. Definitely finger food. You've got to get messy to eat that.
Even with the weather, it exceeded my expectations. It'll be real interesting to see what happens up north, closer to the city.
Well, I'm glad you made it down and experienced South Louisiana. We're able to get lucky enough to catch a tripletail and shoot a nutria and cook it all. A phenomenal meal we're having here.
I've traveled up north to St. Bernard Parish to meet up with producer and host of Outside the Levees, Jared Serigne, whose family has hunted in this area for generations.
We're gonna kill a pig. We had some floods come in this past week with a tropical storm, 6 feet of water above median. So the pigs have tried to find high ground. So we're gonna go try and hit them while they're still on that high ground with our boats. We're gonna run and look for them and try to shoot them from the boat.
Hunting wild boar from a boat may not be traditional in other states, but in the state of Louisiana, anything goes for hogs. Much like nutria, hogs multiply at an incredible rate and they deteriorate the, quote, dry ground.
So we're gonna go into a pipeline canal. As soon as we get in there, we're hunting. On either side of that pipeline, you've got a little bit of a ridge, okay? If we see one, you're pretty much gonna have to shoot right away. We want them gone by any means necessary.
Okay.
You know, especially for feral hogs, they're so smart, they're so crafty. You know, there's doing something like chasing them with a boat, they're actually gonna learn from that. So if you shoot one out of a pack, that pack learns that next time I hear a boat coming, I better get gone a lot sooner.
For this canal, the shotgun's okay?
Yeah, shotgun's gonna work. What'll happen is, let's say, you know, so he could run parallel to the water. So then you're shotgunning and we're chasing him with the boat. But if he decides to break off into the marsh, we're gonna pull in where he broke off at and then you'll get a shot with the rifle.
Okay, okay, sounds good, man.
All right, we're officially hunting now, okay?
Okay.
This is one of the only places where shooting from a boat under power is legal. Definitely a first for me.
Hold on. Coming in on him, okay?
Okay.
See if you can hit him through the brush. Have a seat.
See the grass moving right there?
Yeah. Well, cool. Let's go try another place.
You know, I've been calling a lot of things a levee, but really this is a levee.
Yeah, this is our last line of defense against the next Hurricane Katrina. But this is actually part of the system that failed during Hurricane Katrina. We had, I think, over near 50 levee failures during Hurricane Katrina, and all of it was based on this system going up to the city of New Orleans. So this is what we hope will protect us from the next storm, where I live in St. Bernard Parish, but New Orleans as well.
So on the other side of this is what?
The other side of this is the Mississippi River Gulf Outlet. That is a man-made channel that was designed with the intent to allow ships to get into New Orleans without going up the Mississippi River. It was supposed to be an alternate route. They came in with a big economic promise. It was going to be great for St. Bernard, great for New Orleans. It wasn't. They dug it right through our cypress forest. It brought in saltwater with it, and that's what really killed off most of our marsh. And ultimately, that's where our surge came from during Hurricane Katrina. And what you really got to realize is that, like I said, this is our last line of defense. We needed and wanted the marsh to be our primary defense, but as we're losing it and as it's going away and not being replenished, we're losing that defense. And at some point, we're going to have this levee almost as our only defense, and that's not good for anybody.
Got it.
According to the USGS, Louisiana has already lost over 1/3 of its coastline, an area equivalent to the state of Delaware. But there are things that we as hunters can do to help slow this process.
Yeah!
Oh, it's in the water.
There he is. All right, let's get him to the bank. So look, Al.
Yeah.
This is what he was doing. He was rooting up on this ridge when we saw him, and this is what we want to This is why we were doing what we were doing. We want to protect these ridges because the ridges protect the marsh.
These guys are just rooting up enough to where when that high water does come in, it, just like an irrigation canal, can kind of like help cut through, adds to erosion, channels water.
Yeah. So we're gonna get this guy back to the camp and start cleaning him immediately, get him on ice. That's the biggest thing. You know?
Okay, well sweet, let's pitch him on the boat and get going.
Both wild boar and nutria root, burrow, and destroy vegetation, which is exactly what they're supposed to do. But due to the increasing scarcity of land, the actions of these animals have consequences that result in land loss. We are going to get this meat ready to hand off to Jared's friend Francois, who is going to stew and grind the meat. We're heading over to Jared's family's property. For centuries, his family has hunted and trapped here, but the landscape is a far cry from what it once was. Mismanagement of the Mississippi River, coupled with the increased frequency of hurricanes, has literally reshaped the landscape. While these wetlands have changed dramatically, opportunities to hunt still exist if you're willing to look for them.
Yeah, so I mean, if you can imagine, everything you see here, all of this water was marsh. And overnight, Katrina's storm surge came through here, rolled into here at, you know, who knows, 20 foot or so, and rolled up all that marsh, dug it up, churned it up, and turned it into this overnight. But also what was happening here was this land was sinking so fast and not being replenished, it was just in a weakened state.
So on a day like today, when there's no ducks around, what do you do out here?
You know, you kind of have to be an opportunist these days. Some years we have great duck hunting, some years it's not so great, you know. Could have a lot to do with our habitat being so open, so we take advantage of what's available, and what's available to us is a gallinule. He's a little water bird, you know, similar to a coot, and he's very tasty, so we can still shoot some of those. And you know, you can't be, you got to adapt. You know, as things change, you have to adapt. So if there's no teal, you fish or you shoot gallinule, and that's kind of the system that we use now. So if teal aren't flying, we're gonna shoot some gallinule.
I like it. Well, let's go find some.
Hey, you at heel, you at heel. I think, Ryan, those ones we saw, or if you can get to that grass, I think they went in there.
People often ask what my favorite hunt is. Honestly, this is it. Hunting a species that I have never hunted in a place I've never been.
Dead bird in here, hunt him up. Even though this place is dying, decaying, slowly fading into the Gulf, it's still got plenty to offer, you know?
Oh, well, that's the thing, man. And that's all, I'm always jealous of folks in Louisiana, or really in these coastal ecosystems, because there are so many options. Yeah. Especially if you open your mind to stuff like, you know, slogging through the marsh after birds that you kind of look past to look up, right?
Yeah.
The opportunities are endless. So how do you also say, yeah, enjoy it while you can? Like, you should really be thinking about these other issues.
Right.
Right. It's like a lot of fun to be had.
Yeah.
Out here. But you can also, you know, be involved, right? And try to find those ways to have it all.
Yeah, and you know, just because this place won't ever be what it once was, doesn't mean that we shouldn't try and that we shouldn't fight to save what we can.
Well, should we go see what these things taste like? I'm still a little dubious as to if they're gonna be
No, I think you'll be planning your next gallinule excursion after you try these puppies on.
One of the worst kept secrets about Louisiana is the food. My personal favorite is a hunter's sausage called boudin. This dish represents living off the land, and you can put whatever flies, swims, crawls, or grows in it. We're going to use the wild boar that I shot earlier. Thankfully, Francois has done most of the prep work for us. The wild boar has been braised with pepper and onions and put through a grinder before being mixed with rice. Rather than casing it, we're going to bread and fry them to a golden brown perfection. While we're at it, we're also going to fry up some gallinule legs.
All right, let's see, with the sauce, some crab meat. That sauce adds just a little bit of moisture, a little bit of tang.
But I mean, really, this is an underutilized animal as well, right? I mean, this was a boar that would make most people be like, I don't want to deal with it.
You would not believe the amount of people who shun a large boar. Oh, I'm just gonna cut the back straps out and throw the rest away. Big mistake, huge mistake. Like, we're gonna have enough boudin to feed an army.
No, the meat in that pot that just simmered in water with some vegetables is absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
And that's like off your like big stinky boar, right?
Right.
Well, sure. Appreciate you having me out.
Thank you.
This boudin, like everything in Louisiana, has changed over time. Change is what makes conservation in this country so damn interesting, but also so challenging for the people that call this place home. Which brings me back to the conversation Jared and I had at the Levee.
Like, I'll tell you this, I probably wouldn't encourage my children to invest in property here.
Wow.
I just feel like it could, at least for me and my family, it could be time to start making a transition to higher ground. And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. I mean, how long has your family been around here?
Oh gosh, they started arriving in the 1700s, you know? So, we got deep roots here, but it's washing away.
Rising sea levels, shrinking marsh, and record hurricane seasons are a reality. It is impossible to visit southern Louisiana without becoming intimate with these threats and their effects. The people that work and play here will be the ones to preserve and rebuild the sportsman's paradise. Maybe not in the interest of environmentalism, but in the interest of even better hunting and fishing.